This is Doug Scheiding of Rogue Cookers, Texas embedded correspondent. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show.
We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
Good evening and welcome to the Really Big Barbecue Central Show. This is a show that talks about all things that are important in the world of barbecue and grilling. The show originating from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city, Bomb City, USA, Cleveland, Ohio, the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I'm your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you aboard here on your Tuesday evening's live fire fun and Travalo show. If you want to jump in tonight with a take or a live fire thought, here's how you do it.
You can get in touch with the show by sending an email to Greg at bbqcentralshow.com. Follow us on all the social media channels at BBQ Central Show. And be sure to subscribe to the show podcast feed on your favorite podcast platform.
Anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening in case you can get the newsletter. Coming up in about 13 minutes from now, you would normally find Barbecue Hall of Famer and the most prolific live fire cookbook author to ever grace the earth joining us in the first interview segment of the third Tuesday of every month. However, while he did avail himself, he was going to be out to dinner with friends. He said he would probably have to do it remote on iPhone. That means I have to risk that video is going to show up the right way, and I know the audio isn't going to show up the right way. And I said, you know what? Take a powder.
Get that big stuff out of here.
Take a powder, Hall of Famer. Don't ruin your dinner plans for the show. I certainly appreciate you making yourself available, even though you had some things scheduled. But we're not going to put anything at risk as far as connection or sound as it relates to the show. We have not been doing that now for the last year and a half or so. So you go ahead and enjoy yourself. I'll figure something else out. So we've reworked it. It was a full show. It was going to be Steven Reichlin, and there were going to be 3 other guests. And that last guest in the second hour has now moved all the way up to the first interview spot. A couple weeks ago, we had the then outgoing CEO of the Kansas City BBQ Society, Emily Detwiler, on the show. We talked about why she was leaving. We talked about her time as CEO, programs that she had installed, things she was most proud of, all that fun stuff, and did it in a way where she was out of any commitment to KCBS so she could talk freely. I could ask her a bunch of really great follow-up questions, and she answered everything, which I certainly appreciate. And what is it, 2 weeks later? Let's call it 15 days of the day. New CEO for the Kansas City BBQ Society, and somebody who's showed up on this show many times over the lifespan, Rod Gray. You would know him as the pitmaster of the once white-hot Pellet Envy competition cooking team, a 2009 or 2009 Kansas City BBQ Society's Team of the Year winner. Backed that up with a 2010 Reserve Team of the Year win. Many, many, many grand championships and world awards and all that stuff. But tonight we are interviewing Rod not as a pitmaster because he won something grand over the past weekend. This will be because of his new role as CEO. So we'll talk about why he even considered stepping into this role, what he thinks he's bringing to this role. Is he qualified? If so, what qualifies him as being the new CEO for KCBS? And then, of course, vision, the old stalwart questions and contention points that KCBS has had for as long as I've done the show, namely judging sucks and the board sucks. So we'll talk about all of that, Rod Gray, in about 9 minutes from now. Then 35 past the hour, the creator of Another Pint Please and somebody who I'm going to meet for the first time in person in about a month's time, Mike Lang, will join us. Well, what's Mike up to? I'm glad you asked. Mike is going to be making the eastern-bound trek from where he is in the greater Dayton metropolitan area and coming this way, south and west of Cleveland or east of Cleveland, to Hartville, Ohio, where, of course, you know Hartville Hardware is located, and the 2022 Grillfest will be taking place September 17th. It's an all-day event. It's on a Saturday. So if you've ever wanted to meet Mike in person and you plan on attending this event, two birds with one stone. A, you're attending the event, and the second stone is you will get to see Mike Lang in person. He's going to be doing a live demo. I'll talk up the Hartville Hardware Grill Fest throughout the next handful of weeks as well as we build into it. So if you're on the fence, hopefully I can push you over. But we'll talk to Mike about what he plans to cook next month, how he got involved in getting this deal put together in the first place. And it makes perfect sense. He's 3-4 hours tops away from Hartville. He's in Ohio just like me. So why hasn't this happened before? I don't know, but we'll learn all about it. And that'll close the first hour. Then we'll move to the second hour. Quarterly guest visit from one of the most heavily trafficked and popular barbecue and grilling websites. Susie Bullock from Hey Grill Hey will join us. And we'll talk to Susie about some new items that she has getting ready for release. So if you are a fan of the Hey Grill Hey line of products, there could be two other things you could add to the arsenal here. We'll also talk about some candied bacon crackers. We'll talk about pulled ham, maybe. Pulled ham? Yeah, pulled ham. It's a thing. So that'll be that. And then, depending on how much time's left, we'll have the open segment because that's where Rod was supposed to be and Steven's out. And I did attempt a Tim McKeska backfill at 10:35 to talk about what is an ungodly price per pound of brisket, at least in the Texas area. But it's not just Texas, and I'll get into that here in a second. But he had other things going on, namely the Taylor, Texas Barbecue Festival or something that's going on this week. So very excited to talk to who I'm talking to this evening. And as the rest of the show bears out, might have you on as well. And that's what we have going. Don't forget, you can follow me socially, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Snapchat at BBQ Central Show. Live video feeds over on Facebook and Twitch /BBQ Central Show. Also on YouTube /RD Rempe, where you can find a lively chat roll. And don't forget, we're also audibly on Clubhouse as well, which, by the way, if we get into that open segment towards the end of the show and you want to interact with me, you'll need the Clubhouse app. So download it now and then search for me, and you can just jump in and listen. You don't have to watch. So let's start here this evening. It appears that the first two origin stories of 2022 have gone over really big with the audience, and I'm very happy about that. The first one, of course, was John Marcus, and the last one we did was a week ago with Leanne Whippen, which came off to rave reviews, I'm happy to say. And I'm continually looking to do something different with the show, not change just for change's sake, but in an effort to try and always make the product for you to listen to better. It has become very apparent to me that these origin stories, as we call them, are one of those things that seem to make the show better. And this is something the majority of the audience is really enjoying. And I said it before and I say it again, as I rolled these out for the very first time about a year ago or so when I did them with the embedded correspondents and then the recurring monthly guests of the show, I can see if the live show ever goes away or I I don't know the exact scenario in my head, but if I wanted to continue to put something out content-wise, the origin stories, barbecue origin stories, or the origins of Q, or whatever dopey name I could come up with that's catchy and that would make it sell across the podcast platforms, that's something that I could see doing a deep dive, hour and a half tops, of the most important people, most popular people in the live fire world at this point, and doing a deep dive on them. And not just live fire. Leanne Whippen talked about getting married. She talked about meeting this guy at a manager's happy hour at the hotel, dating for, was it 5 minutes, 10 minutes? They're married. They moved to Guam. She's never talked about that anywhere else. By the way, she didn't even want to get into barbecue to begin with. She wanted to be a pilot, like her dad. That was interesting as well. So I hear you, and I'm looking to do more origin stories. I'm just not sure exactly how that's fitting into the workflow at this point, but it's not gone by the wayside. Don't worry about it. Before Rod Gray joins the show, I'm here to tell you about Green Mountain Grills. Some of the best pellet cookers out there on the market today. They have two different lines to choose from, a choice line and a prime line. The prime line gets you what a lot of consumers at least think they should be expecting when it comes to pellet cookers. A couple different sizes to choose from. They want some sturdy builds on the chassis, which you get with the prime line. And then they want the bells and whistles. They want Wi-Fi. They want an app that will allow them to control their grill from the comfort of their own sanctuary, or just running about. If you have internet connection, cell phone signal, with this app, you do have the ability to adjust temperatures of your pits, and it's great. Now, if you want to save a couple bucks, if all that stuff doesn't really matter to you, you like to be around it, you like to touch and feel and go outside and do the button pushing on your own to adjust these cookers, fine. The choice line is the one that you're going to want to take a look at, of course. That will save you some money. Only sold through dealers, both sides. So you have to go to greenmountaingrills.com. You got to find a dealer near you. And then you can go to the dealer, see them in person, touch them, feel them, fall in love with them, and then take the one you fell in love with home and know that you have been fully educated by the dealer. Yes. You'll have success right off the bat. It's great. GreenMountainGrills.com. That's GreenMountainGrills.com. And as I said last week, who knows? Could become a collector's edition before we know it, but we're not talking about that tonight. Hopefully, Rod Gray will be hitting the green room here sooner than later. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central show right here on the Barbecue Central Network. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting live from the Barbecue Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by cookinpellets.com, your number one source for quality wood pellets for all your pellet-driven cookers. Visit cookinpellets.com for more information or to purchase. You can also visit amazon.com to purchase as well. I suggest going to the website first, and seeing all of the other things that they have there aside from the great selection of pellets to fuel those pellet-driven cookers. You might be able to add even a bit more smoky flavor if you visit cookingpellets.com first. Now, if you're just a Amazon guy or gal and that's the only thing you want to do it, then make sure that you search through there. Every once in a while, I think they actually have some special shipping deals. Maybe not so much anymore at this point, but I remember back in the day, you could get 40 pounds of pellets, and there was quite a hellfire deal on shipping, which really made it worth it. So, and that's another thing that Cooking Pellets separates themselves from a lot of the other pellet manufacturers or pellet suppliers. If I go into the big box store right now, I forget what the name brands are. There's only 2 to choose from if I go to a Lowe's or a Home Depot at this point. And they're all 20-pound bags. I think even Menards is 20-pound bags. They have a couple more different pellet options at Menards, but it's farther away than the Lowe's, which is 6 minutes from my house tops, depending on red lights. And if I need a bag in a pinch, I can just go there and spend the money. It's $12 or $13, maybe $14 for a 20-pound bag. But the 40-pound bag is key. And if you like to have quantity and quality, then the pellets at Cooking Pellets are the way to go. So check them out, support them, as they have been supporting the show low these many years. And yes, we're waiting for Rod Gray.
Get that big stuff out of here.
I'm not going to go tell you what I think is going on right now. I'll wait for that to be confirmed, but I have an idea of what I think is going on, and it is not Steven Reichland throwing some magic voodoo on the show to curse it because I said, hey, don't worry about getting back. Leisurely eat your meal in Miami with your social media friends, and don't worry about the show. I have it handled. Well, guess what? It's not working out that great. But nevertheless, we will press on. Hey, how about this? Instead of whining and complaining, we just race to the hotline and welcome back friend of the show, Rod Gray. Rod?
What's up, Greg?
I'm so sorry. Man, this is screwed. Your microphone isn't even working.
It isn't? You don't
No.
have me?
I mean, I have what's on the computer, but it's not that one.
Yo.
Well, it's not that one. It's the one on the computer.
No, it's not.
I'm telling you it is. I've done this a long time. I know what microphones I hear.
You have done it a long time, 16 years.
Yes, that's right.
You don't have me. I see it. It's got the level meter. Everything seems to be working.
Well, I would. You're an Apple guy, so are your systems settings
All systems are go.
on the Yeti Blue or whatever the hell it is? Yeah. Remember over the weekend when we were having this sound check, and I said, "Hey, how's that Safari?" Yeah, okay, pal.
Yeah. I'm with you, buddy.
Yeah. All right.
Good.
Well, try this. Disconnect fully, and then try come back in, see if that microphone doesn't pick up. And if not, then we'll have to reschedule.
Goodbye.
All right. Goodbye. We'll wait for Rod. If you could only see the internals of me right now, if you could only see it, you would be like, how is he so cool, calm, and collected? A number of different reasons. I feel mostly bad for the viewers. Rod has probably done his part in promoting. Probably a large Facebook audience that's collecting, waiting to hear what he's going to say. We've already blown through the better part of 4.5 minutes. I'm telling you, we're not going to get through it. I should probably call an end to it now. I should throw the inadvertent flag, the preemptive flag, I would imagine. Let's see what happens here. Rod?
Yep.
All right. Well, that's the right one. Look, I'm worried. We're 4.5 minutes to the negative. I don't know if we're going to be able to get through what I want to get through, and that's the most important part. So
It's all about you.
Should we just trash it and try again
come on.
later?
You've been studying. You've been waiting for this. You've been sleepless nights. Let's give it a go.
Rod, why are you going to be a good CEO for the KCBS?
I can tell you why I think I'm going to be a good CEO, but I can't tell you if I'm going to be a good CEO.
Why do you think
I'm going to do my best? Why?
Yes.
I've been at this for 20 years. I have a lot of experience on the outside. I don't have a lot of experience on the inside. I was 5 years on the board, Greg. So, I have experience on the inside. I will tell you, I've spent my second full day there, and it's a lot to learn, and I'll have a lot to learn. And it's going to be a process. It's not going to happen overnight. The staff seems to be, 2 days. How can you really evaluate? But I'm told, and what I see, they're freaking outstanding. They're amazing. They're working so hard. I don't know that anybody realizes that an organization this large operates with a 4-person staff.
Yeah.
Plus me, which right now I'm not a lot of help, but I will be, and we'll do big things, I think. Have I convinced you yet, or need I go further?
If you're 2 days in, you're blind to most stuff, but as you come into it, do you feel like the position has been left to you as well as it could have been left?
I'm going to say this. Because what I'm doing is a lot of reading, because the staff has so much to do, I'm sitting with the staff, and they're teaching me some of the internals, the backside of the website, which we use, and some of the server stuff. But I have a lot of time to read. I'm going to tell you this, and no matter how much joking around we end up doing, if we do any, I think that the place could not have been left in better shape than it was. A lot of things were done, cross-training. Just it's pretty incredible what I see there so far.
We hear the title CEO, and a lot of us work for businesses that have that title working for their organization. What does the CEO do? And I guess specifically, what has a CEO been outlined to do for KCBS?
So first, I want to say this. I don't want to utilize the CEO title more than I have to. I feel like a worker, but I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I know you and I talked about this position very, very briefly, and it was called the managing director. And I did ask them to restore that title for continuity, for networking, for working with partnerships and sponsorships. But honestly, I've asked for my business card to not have it on there, because I'm going to roll up my sleeves and do the work. Part of my responsibilities are to oversee the staff, to grow the staff when needed, to do a lot of the overall functions, accounting, payroll, not accounting, but payroll. And there's a lot of duties. Also, I am the liaison between the staff and the board. And I do sit in all the board meetings. I sit on all the committee meetings. So lots of evenings sitting right here or somewhere, doing what we're doing here. I'm going to train to be a rep. It's going to take some time, because I can't just jump in and be gone. But I'll be out there slinging trays or whatever they have put me up to at the Royal. I hope to be at the Jack, and I'll definitely be at the World Invitational in Alabama in November. So it's a hands-on thing. It's not a sit back and cross your arms and watch what goes on. We're not that big an organization. We maybe whoever succeeds me will have the luxury of doing that, but I won't have that luxury.
Rod Gray, the CEO of KCBS, joining us here on the show. KCBS.us is the website. If you've never visited, go ahead and check it out. I don't know what you were doing previous to taking this position, so I guess in some kind of a truncated version, can you give me the whole story of how you're even aware that they're hiring and what the process was like for you going through it?
So obviously I learned about about Emily resigning the same way everybody else did. I read an announcement on the KCBS website. Someone called me and said, "Have you seen the announcement?" And I went and looked at it and read it. So I learned about it the same way everybody else did. And I've told the story to some people, but 3 years ago, I got a call asking if I could recommend anybody for the job for that position, and I said no. I didn't even think about it. I didn't think about it personally, and I just said no. And I was at an event, a doubleheader. I cooked that whole weekend, and I was driving home with 8 hours time. That's when I do my best thinking, is driving. And I thought, you know what? I can do that job, and I should at least attempt to interview for that job. And I got home and got busy, and when I finally reached out on Thursday, they were already in talks with somebody. So I missed that opportunity. So when it came around this time, I made a phone call, said, hey, how's this going to get handled? And they said, well, there's a posting through a website, and I went and read it. And I didn't really tell them I was going to apply. I hadn't needed a resume since I was in college, 1987. And I hadn't really had a job interview since then. Everything I've done has been by reputation, and I've never needed those things. So I put a resume together, and I won't lie to you, I studied some of the resume, some of the interview questions, not knowing how it would be. And I think it took, I don't remember now, maybe a couple of weeks. And I got an email asking if I would go through the interview process. And so that's how it started.
In the press release that announcing you, it says that you are now the 4th CEO in KCBS history. I guess I don't know who the first one was. I know at least 2 other ones in yourself. But you're the 3rd one in less than 4 years at this point. Does that concern you?
So first of all, I count Carolyn Wells as the first one.
Okay, all right.
She handled day-to-day. She was called the executive director. I think that's just another way to say it. But then Heath Hall, and I know Heath ran into some issues with the new board coming in, and then Emily did it. Yes, I am the 4th one. And do I have concerns? I have concerns in the way that anyone would have concerns about a new job. They want to prove their value, prove their worth, all those things. It's the same feeling anyone would have at a new job. I realize I'm working with a group of 11 or 12 volunteer board members. I will tell you that this board has more experience on it than the board when I was on it, or any board I've ever really paid attention to. We have previous board experience. We have a CPA. We have folks who've owned businesses. We have folks who've been in management and dealt with employees, and it's a much more experienced board. I'll also tell you this: as I'm reading and I'm learning about the committees, this board does more than any other board I've seen in terms of their activity level, of their involvement level. They do a lot of stuff that takes some stuff off of the staff. Right now, the staff is completely full in terms of working full hours and lots to do, and not a lot of time to sit around or stand around or goof around. You can see the stress on their face. They're working so hard, and but yeah, I know what I'm getting into. I was 5 years on the board. I've been around KCBS for 20 years. You hear the stories. I know I work for the board. I know that in the past it's been said that our board is more operational and less strategic than lots of folks would like it to be. Right now we can use the help because we're coming out of and by the way, can I say this? And I'm not trying to pat my successor on the back, but Emily took a job with an organization she knew about, but probably didn't know the inner workings of the way that some of us do. And the first thing she got was a slap in the face with COVID, and she worked through that. And then there were some, legal issues there. We all know about that. I don't think we need to bring it up, but
Nope.
She dealt with a lot of stuff that's not just a day-to-day. And when she left there, she's left me so I can just concentrate on the business. Concentrate on the work at hand. We need to grow again because we're down in contests. We're going to face some tough times. Fuel's coming down, but meat's going up. Fall meat prices are predicted to be high, and folks are having to make choices right now. Do we go cook a contest, or do we put food on the table and gas in the tank and have little more relaxing weekend and not have to stress about it. And so there's still being choices made. We'll come out of this. It'll take a year, maybe a little more, but we're growing despite that, and we'll continue to grow. But there's definitely a lot of work ahead for me.
Rod, as I scoured social media, seeing reaction to you being named the new CEO or being hired, I saw a lot of the quote, "He'll fix it," or "He'll get us back on track." And there were a lot of similar posts. I know you saw a lot of those as well.
I did.
Is something broken?
See, that's the question I'm asking myself when I read those. I don't think it's broken. I think everything needs a little work. When I sit with the staff and we talk about, we're working on this, we're working on that, and then they say things like, we want to do this, we need to do this, but there are priorities above that, and we just don't have the bandwidth to do it all. So I'm looking around like it's somebody's old Dodge Caravan in their backyard with weeds growing around it, and it's not running, and they need to fix it and get it going. KCBS is not that. They're the world's largest barbecue organization, 16,000 members, and we're at 350 or 60 contests, and we're doing things. I personally took the J Cup today, which is the judges' continuing education, and I was impressed. That took a lot of effort. If you haven't seen it, it's videos followed by some questions you have to answer, and it's 8 modules that you go through, and when you're done, you complete it, and you get a certificate saying you completed the continuing education. It was far superior than I thought it would be when I clicked on it, to be honest with you. There's been a lot of work go on there, in a lot of good ways. It may not show every day, but it has. Yeah.
I assume the vast majority of KCBS is not competing, those 16,000 members. So what should you as an organization do to keep the membership renewing and also building new members that aren't necessarily competitors?
That is a great question, because as I talk to the staff and we talk about membership, something that I've never thought of, even though I'm probably part of the group, is the membership is aging out. They're getting, I know it sounds funny, but yeah, we all are. I'm doing it. But, so I think, these aren't all my ideas. So, everybody gets credit for some of this, but one, we do need to involve the younger folks in some way. I know there was a talk about maybe doing some targeting high school competitions a little bit, just to give them a taste of it. Folks who are holding the one meat challenges, the one meat contests, are excited about it. I think that's great. The investment is so much less, but it gives somebody a taste of what it's all about. And, they do a few of those, and maybe they say, I'm going to step up and do the full Master Series 4 meat contest. And I also think I'd like to, while I'm here, maybe hopefully incentivize our membership just a little more, give them a reason to hang on. The statistic is that our members for about 4.5 years, but on average. But I get it, because you jump in and you take the CBJ class and you judge for a little bit, and then maybe your family gets older and you have to take your son to baseball instead of go cook barbecue, and you come back to it later, and you don't need to be a KCBS member during that time. But yeah, I got to say this too. Memberships, $40 for a year of membership. You get 2 electronic magazines a month, and you get some discounts on some things and some perks, and I think it's a heck of a deal. And it's hard, for me anyway. But I've been in barbecue 20 years. It's hard for me to imagine not being a KCBS member.
Has there been a mandate put in place, Rod, to have teams be KCBS members too in order to cook?
To my knowledge, no.
Why not do that right off the bat? Let's do that right off the bat.
Well, so if you want your points counted, you have to be a KCBS member. And a lot of people like to have their points counted. So, but, I think way back, so I was on the board for 5 years. It ended in 2009. So 04 to 2009. And even back then, we discussed that idea of making it, if you want to compete in a KCBS contest, you have to be a member. But we decided that, somebody cooking their first contest, add another $40 to their first time they ever tallied up everything they were going to do to spend the contest back then. we decided we didn't want to impose that on people. But it's not a bad idea. I think I want to look at it a little more.
It's
before I just
$40.
shake my head yes
It's
to it.
$40, and it's a year of membership. And especially if we're talking present day, if people are dropping $200 on a brisket or more, depending on what beef price is, like $40 is nothing, and it grows membership. It's that's got to be a mandate. That's my rule. That's happening. I don't know if anybody knows. We just passed it, executive order by Rod Gray. So be a freaking member.
It doesn't hurt your pocketbook to spend $40 on a KCBS membership, does it?
No, I would do it, but I mean, since you don't have to do it if you're a competitor, then I have to remain impartial, of course.
Wait. You would do it. What does that mean?
I'm not a member. I'm no member of any sanctioning body in order to maintain a area of sterility that few approach.
But Greg, wouldn't you, being a member of all of those sanctioning bodies, be that same air of sterility?
No, an error of sterility.
Yes, sterile is part of the equation. But you need to. You know what? You need to jump in here and be a lifetime member of KCBS. You need to be my first recruit to be a lifetime member of KCBS. How about that?
We'll have to talk about that.
Well, we are talking about it.
All
you got to do is say
yes. But nobody cares if I'm going to be a lifetime member or not. What they want to know is.
I do. I care.
But Rod, we've seen a golden era of barbecue competition. It was on TV. Everybody wanted to do it. They realized you didn't have to be a world-class athlete to go up against the best of the best and literally see where your stuff stacks up on any given weekend.
I agree.
But now in 2022, we see cancellations. You had just said a couple minutes ago the contests are down, especially in certain areas of the country. Are there things you would suggest to start turning it back to how it once was? And is this Barbecue USA any portion of that?
I'm watching the Barbecue USA, by the way. I will be honest with you and tell you I haven't watched every barbecue show that's come across the screen here in the last 10 years, but I'm definitely watching it. I like it. I think Michael Simon is relatable. I think that's important. I talked to Carolyn Wells a long time ago, and she told me how cyclical the show thing was, how TV shows grab barbecue every period of time. If I recall, she said 6 or 7 or 8 years every that period of time that TV comes back to barbecue. So my shows. What season was I on? 6, I think, of Pitmasters, and that was in 2012 and 2013. And then they went ahead and did the next season with Joe and Robbie Royal, and then they did another one after that. And so we're probably about 6, 7, 8 years out from the last big push, and now here we have Michael Simon's show, Barbecue USA. I'd like to think we'll see more shows like that. I can't predict. That's not in my control, but those shows help. And as meat prices settle down and folks get more back, we're still getting back to normal from 20 and from 21, and we're growing our contests from those years. Obviously, I think they were down. I don't know the number, but I counted the website. I think there were about 140 contests in 20. Obviously, I mean that wasn't the year for a barbecue contest, so we're already in the 340, 360 range. So we're well coming back. I'd love to add another 100 contests to that. And then I think we'd be we'd be back at the golden era, as you call it, if we get that done. And I think we'll get that done. It'll take some time, though. It's not going to happen overnight.
Right, I have a bunch more questions to ask you, of course. However, I have a guest that is backed up and ready to go. So, I appreciate the time this evening and the candor, which I always appreciate. Lon Mitchell is taking a run at me on Facebook saying, I'm all talk and no walk. Screw you, Lon. How about that? And you're banned from the internet. But
I know Lon. I like Lon.
I know Lon, too. He's great. I've had him on the show. Once you've gone through the media circuit, let's circle back up to the varsity show here, and we can dig in a little bit further. You'll have a little bit more time under your belt, and then we can see where the direction's going to go. Can we agree on that?
I'd love to, Greg. You know I like coming on your show. I think we work well together, and I appreciate that offer. I look forward to it.
All right, Rod, there he is. Rod Gray, the new CEO of KCBS, day 2 in, and doing a lot of reading, a lot of learning, but as he said, left in really great hands, a lot of tough things that were maneuvered by Emily Detwiler, the former CEO. So looking forward to getting Rod back on the show and seeing how he feels at that point. And I know a lot of the other barbecue shows and podcasts are looking to get him on. So have your way with him, and then we will follow back up. And beef prices, no joke. No joke at all. All right, Mike Lang is in the green room waiting patiently. I went over on purpose. I'm sure he understands. The CEO of KCBS. What would you call a spice blend that was 100% natural with no preservatives, that added maple crystals, blueberry powder, fresh ground espresso? It's espresso, not espresso too, you heathens. Honey crystals and ground mustard from the oldest mustard company in America. No worries. They've already named it Bub and Mother's. It's a gourmet dry rub company with Maine attitude. Maine folks don't like anything that only has one use. So this blend of spice and Maine ingredients was designed to be used on anything that had fur, fins, or feathers. However, when we first released these two flavors 4 years ago, the customers started using them on everything from avocado toast to fried zucchini, even 2 cocktail mixes, and a soon-to-be famous redneck aioli. Rather than just go on and on about winning awards, being used to beat Bobby Flay, winning cooking competitions, how about we just ask you to try them? Fine. Cook whatever you want, any way you want. Just add the spices. Use your own spices. Then decide if you want to hear from us again. Fair enough? Sure. Bub and Mother's rubs are designed for regular folks who just want great flavor when they cook because of how they blend each flavor. You can use them on the smoker or on the grill. And when the weather won't let you do it outside, you can do it inside on the oven, broiler, or fryer, even mixed with mayo for excellent dressings for side dishes. Yeah, come on. What makes the rubs different? Salt. They use far less salt than what you would find on store shelves, which means you get more spice for the money. The real benefit is the flavor comes through without having to bury your meat with the rub. So head on over to bubandmothers.com. That's BUBNMUTHAS, bubandmothers.com, and order some today. Speaking of today, I did some boneless, skinless chicken thighs on the Oklahoma Joe's Rider DLX, and I used the honey rub from Bub and Mother's. It's a winner. Look, you guys know I'm a sucker for anything sweet honey, barbecue rub. There's a lot of them out there. This one, I recommend it. You might be a little shocked at the size shaker, but as he says, it's not just loaded with salt to fill it up. I think you'll like it. And try the East Coast dinner as well. Big fan. Bubandmothers.com. We're back with Mike Lang right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
Welcome back, and we thank Rod Gray for joining us last segment. This portion brought to you by Fireboard. Monitor up to 6 different temperatures simultaneously. Connect to Wi-Fi for cloud-based monitoring, or connect via Bluetooth if you have Alexa or the Google Assistant in your home. You're in luck. Fireboard fully integrated with both. Find out more by visiting fireboard.com or call 816-945-2232. My next guest is one of the most respected live fire website content creators out there today. Loves cooking on those fleet of Weber cookers. And next month, you will not only see me at the Hartville Hardware Grillfest 2022, you will also see him doing some live cooking demos as well. We race to the hotline and welcome back friend of the show, creator of Another Pint Please website, Mike Lang. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Greg. How are you?
I am absolutely fabulous. Mike, your opinion only. Is $34 a pound too much to spend at a barbecue restaurant for brisket?
Yeah, I mean, those are the kind of prices that drive
You're
you
damn
home.
right!
Yeah.
You're damn right. And it's the norm as I started doing research before the show. In fact, I may or may not be going to Mabel's Barbecue on East 4th Street downtown tomorrow with a customer where on the menu it shows a $17 per half pound of brisket, which due to simple math, gives you $34 a pound. For those that couldn't figure it out yourself, let me do the hard math for you. But yeah, $34 a pound seems to be standard fare. I'm wondering, do you have a thought on where customers will say no?
I think that's one of many things people are going to say no to, and probably what, in a weird way like COVID, drive people back home to do things themselves where they can at least do it cheaper. It may not be that same experience or as good, but they can be masters of their own food destiny, and I think that's probably what would happen.
Like, the biggest thing in social media over the past 6 weeks has been my singular invention, and nobody else can take credit for it, of mayo bindered brisket. Have you ever tried it?
I have not, but so I heard. Very intriguing.
Are you going to try it?
You know, it's funny. Yeah, actually, I am. And I'm probably going to do it.
That's not a yes right off the bat.
Well, no, not on a brisket, but I thought about on a chuck roast. I was smoking some chuck roast a couple of weeks ago. Same principle. I need a binder for that rub. I don't usually use a binder. Oftentimes the meat sweats enough for me. The rub sticks to it. I'm good to go. But I'm certainly intrigued by your invention, shall we say. And if I give it a shot, which no, I'll take it back. I will give it a shot, and it will be on a chuck roast.
All right. And make sure you tag me in it and say something about mayo binder or something like that, so I continue my grassroots efforts of fame and stardom. We're talking with Mike Lang from Another Pint Please at Another Pint PLS on the Twitter, or just look at him on the web, anotherpintplease.com. Mike, Weber has trimmed, according to reports, just as early as earlier this afternoon, as I was looking it up over at cookoutnews.com, 10% of their workforce, one of many companies that are trying to stem the implosion or bust of what is the barbecue boom that had been happening for the last couple of years. Do you think that could trickle down to you at some point? In other words, do you worry about being cut loose in order to save money for expense, or does that not really enter your mind?
Well, I go by the creed, nothing is forever. And certainly I'm actually approaching my 10th year as a contractor working for Weber, which has been an absolute thrill. But really, when I think about everything happening there, and I'm quite in tune to it, I'm not really worried about myself, but my friends and these wonderfully talented people there at Weber that are kind of waiting to see where things go. And that's really, really where my heart and my feelings are.
Are you surprised that it seems like it was that big of a shock to some of the biggest live fire companies that things have flattened out, that people just aren't going to be buying multiple grills, especially when there's not stimulus checks rolling in year after year?
You know, it's hard to say. You cannot predict the future, and the world has been so upside down the last 3 years. Just when you think you've got something figured out, and I don't care if you're the federal government or a private business or a local nonprofit, I don't think anyone really quite knows what the road ahead is going to be. And it's just, it's sad and it's unfortunate.
Mike Lang from Another Pint Please joining us here on the show. Mike, September 17th, 2022, it's going to be a Saturday, will be the latest version of the Hartville Hardware Grillfest. I've talked about the location for years and how majestic it is, how great this specific event is, and of course, the great live cooking demos that are a part of this great day. And just when you think it couldn't get any better, I'm informed that Mike Lang is going to be the Weber demo guy. How does that come together?
Oh, it's crazy. It's funny. I was up north of Dayton and Troy at a True Value hardware store. I walked in, I forget what I was even looking for, and had no idea of the amount of Webers in their showroom. And I was blown away. So impressed, I had to email a friend in sales at Weber just to say, hey, I was blown away. And he then reached out to the Ohio sales team at SKKR, and they got a hold of me, and that quickly rolled into Hartville looking for someone to do a demo for Weber. And literally in a matter of a week or two, it all kind of came together. It was crazy.
Is this something that you have done before, where you've done cooking demos, but also you need to have some type of sampling to go out for the crowd?
Yeah, I've done demos quite a bit on a much smaller scale. And I will say for Hartville, I'm told that I have a quote unquote team to help with the samples. So knowing that the feeding of the masses doesn't bother me as much, it's more, of donning the old Britney Spears headset and getting on stage and doing my thing, especially with Diva Q there doing her thing, since she's phenomenal. So I know I've got some big shoes to fill, but you know what? Doors open, I walk through them, and I'm excited. And plus, you're going to be there. So honestly, it's like a win-win for me.
I feel like if I was put in your, well, first of all, I would never do this, what you're going to do. I'm much more at ease, kind of working the crowd, interjecting some witty questions to those experts that you, Danielle, and all the other demo cooks that have been there over the years that I've hosted. If I had to, I feel like I could really do a good job on the demo part. Now, you did say that you have a team, which is good, and maybe that makes me rethink this whole thing. But if I didn't have a team, and I've seen Danielle cook the remainder of what are going to be her samples offsite into the parking lot. She has some sous chefs. Tony from Historic Barbecue, of course, has been there to back her up for a number of years in a row. That's where I feel like I would fail. Not necessarily interacting with the crowd, maybe showing some knife skills and some cooking skills and going, and you can do this at home, everybody. But then it's like, okay, now you got to taste this. I don't know if I could execute the taste. So are you nervous that the team might leave a key spice element out or take it a little bit over or something along these lines, or full faith?
No, I've got total faith. I'm not doing anything that's so crazy that's going to be easy to disrail. I think once we've got a plan to get it together, and you can hold, it's not, what I'm doing is cheesy short rib street tacos. So it's not like it's something super crazy. I think we'll be able to pull it off. I'm not really worried about it, truthfully. You may be a little bit worried about it now in hindsight, but I'm not concerned. It's going to be awesome.
Are you nervous about getting up in front of a crowd of people?
No, that doesn't bother me at all. Only thing I worry about is, of course, with anytime I'm doing any kind of live cooking demo, whether it be on local television or for any sort of event that, you don't really screw things up. That's all I ever concern myself with. But I'm human. It'll work. I'm excited.
What's your favorite beer at the moment?
Right now I'm drinking a coffee bean stout from Lock 27, which is a local Dayton brewery. They teamed up with a local coffee place. It's, fall's coming up. I'm not really ready to jump into the pumpkin scene yet, even though it's
starts tomorrow.
I know, it's crazy. But it's this time of year. It's what I kind of like to go to. I get a little tired of the hazy IPAs after a while, and this is where I start to change gears. So it's good.
Do you like coffee rubs or espresso rubs and stuff like that?
It's funny you mention. I've got a couple. I've made some, but when I have them, I've found they've always been pretty much too much. And I've never really tried to dial it down. Usually it's something like big, like a ribeye I'm going to put it on. But I don't know. In that arena, I mean, I'm a huge coffee fan. I love coffee. I drink coffee, water, and beer pretty much the entire day. Well, I should repeat that. Coffee and water during the day. Work may frown upon that a little bit. And then beer, of course, after hours. But coffee rubs, something about that I can't get around. I think it just takes too much away from the beef. And when I'm cooking, I always want the beef or the protein to shine through.
Yeah, I've tried it a couple times. One time at a really decent restaurant, again, down on East 4th Street in Cleveland. And boy, that would have been a really great piece of steak outside of the rub, but it ruined it. I didn't even eat the whole thing. It was kind of a tragedy. So I've steered away from that in the most part. Before I let you go, Mike, favorite cigar at the moment? Because I know you partake in the premiums.
I'm a Oliva fan. I tell you what, I keep coming back to it again and again.
Yeah. All right. Well, I certainly can appreciate that. It's my favorite. I would show you the Oliva drawer in my humidor, but quite frankly, I think that makes me look like a bit of an Oliva glutton at the same time, so I'll save myself the embarrassment. But it's the Melanio and all the shapes and sizes. I mean, it's a very good cigar for those that like it. We definitely suggest trying that. So once again, if you're going to be around the general area of Hartville on September 17th or the day before that, get a room, spend the night if you're a live fire enthusiast or lover like Mike and I are, and then come out to the event. Here's what's going to happen. There's going to be a cooking contest. There's probably still openings. If you're a competitor, you can do that. But if you don't want to do that, if you want to see people cook in front of you, you want to get some good recipes. Mike said he's doing a short rib cheese taco, which sounds absolutely delightful. He's going to cook it right in front of you. You can see him right there. He's probably going to bring copies of his books, so you could probably get a picture and a signed copy of a book. I mean, who knows what's going to be happening there. You can see BBQ. I'll be there all day interacting with these demo folks. So make sure you come out. And, Mike, you're willing to sell books and sign books, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's going to, come out and see us. I think it's just going to be a really good time, and I really can't wait to go.
Mike, always appreciate the time, and I will see you in almost exactly a month.
Sounds good, Greg. Thanks so much. I always appreciate it.
You got it. There he is, Mike Lang from Another Pint Please. Right there. And on September 17th, again, which is a Saturday, we will both be at the Hartville Hardware store in Hartville, Ohio. And again, this is a monumental sized hardware store, the biggest in the country, biggest independent in the country, I believe. And I say it time and time again, how big is it? How big could it possibly be? There are homes inside the hardware store, full-ass homes. And for those who think I'm a liar, like Lon Mitchell, let me tell you this. This year in 2022, I'm busting out the phone cam, and I'm not just taking a picture of it. I'm going to do live streaming video of me walking through the whole ass house. No basement. It's on a slab, right? But I'll do walking video through the house. You will see all of the rooms, depending on what the scheme of the house is this year. Last time I went through it last year, it was one of those smart and efficient houses. There was a lot of stuff that I wish I had in my house, to be honest. So that's going to be Hartville Hardware, Grillfest 2022. There's going to be a rib competition and also a pork belly competition. So I believe if you're competing, you have to be ready to A, cook ribs, and then B, cook something that incorporates pork belly. And the entry fee is $35. You can cook on a Weber gas grill or a Traeger pellet cooker or a Big Green Egg ceramic cooker. And then the bonus is if you're in the market for one of those three, you can buy those at a discount or a already used, lightly used discount. Then they're always sold out before the end of the day. So a lot of different deals going on. And Mike Lang will be there selling books, signing books, taking pictures, and doing his short rib cheesy street taco. It's great. We're going to have a great time. I'm trying to line up DBQ to also hype it, to push you over the edge. Speaking of pushing over the edge, I'm here for it. 171 pounds, and I am not fat. No. I've bought in. I have now for 2 weeks in a row fully adhered to the eating plan, to the workout plan, to the training plan, all prescribed and recommended by my pal David McDowell from David Leans. The website, of course, davidleans.com/BBQ. That's davidleans.com/BBQ. You can enjoy being a little healthier, eating right, and not withholding the stuff that you really like. There's cheat days. You can save some stuff to eat some stuff a little bit later, depending on what you have going in the day. I can't always eat the way that I want to eat, but I know I'm getting my work in the morning. I'm up 5:30 a.m., getting ready to do the workout, get the weight training in, get a little walking in, get my steps in, and then eating through the recommended way to eat over the course of the day. And it's working for me. Started at 184 pounds, down to 171 pounds as we start week 7. It works. You have to want to do it, number one. And then number two, it makes it so much easier when you know you have to report in. And if you're having struggles, text David, call David, sit down, talk it out, make some arrangements, make some revisions, adjustments. He's there to meet you where you're at to help success. DavidLeans.com. That's DavidLeans.com. We're back right after this to wrap the first hour. Stick around. Be right back.
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
And we're going to go quickly. This portion of the show brought to you by Pit Barrel Cooker, the most unbelievable outdoor cooking device on the planet. Available in 3 sizes. Doesn't matter if you're a beginner or a professional. Cooker you want to add to the arsenal. Tell them that the Barbecue Central Show sent you, or go to pitbarrel.com and check it out for yourself. We thank Rod Gray for joining us topside in that first interview segment, and then Mike Lang from Another Pint Please for joining us just last segment, talking about the big Hartville Hardware Grillfest of 2022. Check us out. I'll be there emceeing. He'll be there cooking. Diva Q will be there cooking as well, Danielle Bennett. We are pointing to the second hour. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Jeff Stone of Grandpa's Pride Barbecue from the Panhandle of Florida, and you are listening to the Barbecue Central Show.
Happy to have you aboard here for the really big barbecue show.
Boing. We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Hit me!
Fine, how's it going?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
Boing.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead and he's in the crackle. Charbono! It's all about the Charbono, dude!
Succulent fish! What?
He ate 54 wieners.
Oh, listen, Lavernius, shut your face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seed.
We have top men working on it right now. Top men.
And just like that, we are into the second hour of the Barbecue Central show. This is a show that talks about only the most important live fire barbecue and grilling topics that are gracing the live fire landscape. Where do we do it from?
Palm City, USA, Cleveland.
It is live right now from 9 to 11 every Tuesday. It's also being recorded, so if you can't catch it live, you can catch it in podcast. Hour number 1 will appear at some point overnight, and hour number 2 will appear on the podcast feed on Thursday. I'll tell you about Friday here in just 1 second. What was that? Who's still to come on the show tonight? Well, I'm glad you asked. Susie and Todd Bullock from HeyGrillHey.com will be joining us in about 13 minutes from now. Don't forget, you can follow me socially at BBQ Central Show on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and the Snapper Snaps / BBQ Central Show on Facebook and Twitch for a live video feed. Also, /RD Rempe on YouTube. If you would prefer that, there's a lively chat going on over on YouTube as well. A couple Twitch chats as well. I see you people out there. So if I'm not reacting, it doesn't mean that I don't see you. It's just that I'm not always reacting to the chat because I don't get, I learned many years ago. What did I learn? Well, you have this chat going on and it's scrolling up and down and all of a sudden you're interviewing somebody, but now you've lost yourself into the chat, reading people bickering back and forth with each other. And guess what? The guest stopped talking. That's bad. That's a bad interview technique. So I learned peruse every now and again. If something really hits, then you'll see it pop up on the screen. But otherwise, I see everybody. Don't worry about it. Don't get offended if I'm not saying your name or whatever you're supposed to do when the real YouTube live people do it. Get super chats and say, hey, Tim2824, thanks for coming in, pal. That's not this kind of a show. But I see you. So I'm recognizing you all right now. I see all of you, and I see everything that you're writing. I just, most of the time, don't bother reacting to it. And that's fine. Also, we are live audibly on Clubhouse as well. I see our friend Stover is in, Johnny Maggs. You'll see Johnny Maggs on the show in a couple weeks. Coming up on the best moments of the Barbecue Central show in 10 minutes or less, episode 242, taking you back to August 18th, 2015. Yes, 7 years ago. This week, we feature the one and only to date interview that I have done with the new barbecue darling of Texas. Maybe not new, but certainly a name that you're not overly familiar with when it comes to the old standbys that have been dominating year after year. His name, Ernest Cervantes. I say, again, new for the folks who only know of Ernest recently due to the major success and rave reviews of the restaurant in Seguin, Texas. However, Ernest has been in the barbecue game a long time. When he was really competing, he was very successful. He spent time in fine dining restaurants, classically chained chef. To simply put it, Ernest can flat out cook in any form or fashion, and it's live fire that seems to have really piqued his interest and caught his passion. And his guests are reaping the rewards. And the praise is early and often and in large doses. I've never heard of Seguin, Texas in my life until Ernest opened Burnt Bean, and I want to get down there to say, A, I was in Seguin, but more importantly, to eat in Ernest's restaurant. Plus, they talk about that brunch that he serves. That might be better than the actual barbecue itself. Maybe it should be a 2-day event. Look, this was a great look into who Ernest was at the time. Again, we're going on 7 years ago, well before the restaurant, and what he was looking to do in the years ahead. However, I think what you hear most clearly through this interview is how good of a guy and how humble of a guy Ernest was back then and still is. This is going back to 2015. So look forward to that. Again, you have to be subscribed to the podcast feed in order to get the best of show. And you can also send John an email and ask him to play another guest or segment again that might have become lost in the archives. John's email, JON, at thebbqcentralshow.com. That's JON at thebbqcentralshow.com. And he will do his best to meet your show expectation. Upcoming shows for the balance of August include visits from the bristly barbecue journalist Derek Riches from DerekRiches.com, Chris Young from Combustion Inc., CEO over there. The embedded correspondents show up on the fourth Tuesday in the second hour for some 100% assurity questions, and we have a number of topics to get their opinions on. John Furman from Bub and Mother's Rubs comes in for the first time, and a group interview with none other than cigar expert and my go-to man when it comes to sourcing good sticks, Mr. Jonathan from the Cigar Authority podcast. And as I just mentioned a couple minutes ago, Johnny Maggs, who is the host of the Pit Life Barbecue podcast. A couple weeks ago, those two went head-to-head at the Two Guys Smoke Shop in New Hampshire in a burger bash. I'm not going to tell you who won, but it wasn't Mr. Jonathan. And we're going to have them recount that whole competition, where it went bad for Mr. J, where Johnny Maggs exceeded and then blew past Mr. Jonathan in order to capture this title. I'm not giving anything away because it was all released a number of weeks ago on a different show, but I want to get the inner workings, the thought processes behind why you build this kind of a burger, why you build that kind of burger, and also show where the expertise lies between the two. I don't know Mr. Jonathan to be any type of food competitor other than some type of a meatball contest that Two Guys holds every year that he's never won. And then you have a somewhat of a competitive cook in Johnny Maggs. He knows how to build boxes. He knows how to bring attention to a dish in a positive fashion. And he was not building burgers for him. I'm speaking for Johnny. I could be wrong. He's building burgers to win. And I think that's where a lot of people get confused, especially in the world of barbecue. You're always told, don't cook barbecue the way you want to eat it. Cook it for the judges. That's who is going to vote for you in order to win. So that's what you want to do. So that's what's going to be coming up for the balance of August. Where do I have time to go? Well, we talked about it with Rod. I'll talk about it now, and then I can just get this off the queue list. Is anybody watching Barbecue USA on the Food Network with my best pally or bestie for the resty, Mike Simon? Anybody? I don't watch it live on Monday nights because it's a little too late for me. In fact, this is too late for me, but I got through it because I've become accustomed to doing it for the last 16 years. A lot of people answering yes in the instant chat. So the follow-up question, if you're watching it, is it just because it's some form of barbecue on television, number one? And then what do you think the biggest wins are doing this? We've seen barbecue on television a number of times. We've seen it, especially on Food Network, a number of times. It doesn't always seem to pan out very well on the Food Network a lot of the time. I've heard rumblings. I believe Emily Detwiler made some type of a reference into saying she thinks, or maybe she heard, that Barbecue USA was going to be renewed for a second season. We know the longevity that Barbecue Pitmasters had. Now, whether you agree or disagree with the various formats that show went through over its lifespan, I think it went 11 seasons. I mean, you heard Rod talk about when he was on with season 6 or season 7, went on for 4 or 5 more seasons, depending on what season Rod was on. That was a long-running barbecue show. Again, not my cup of tea. I'm not contest guy. I don't really dig those. But I'm obviously in the minority of thinking like that. I would rather have a following of 1 or 2 teams, but following them in totality. I want to see what's going on at home. I want to see them getting ready for a competition. I want to see teamwork. I want to see bickering. Then I want to see them get to the competition, do the competition. Does it matter if they win or not? Now, who cares?
Get that big stuff out of here.
But barbecue is just a part of it. As I've always said, you watch Deadliest Catch, guess what's going to happen in every show? They're going to fish. That happens all the time. But it's almost a second thought because you're more invested, or you've become invested in the captains of the ships, or the guy that runs the hydros, or the newest greenhorn that's vomiting over the ship 20 minutes into the trip. I think that can be a recipe that works. Obviously, I'm wrong. But even Leanne Whippen said last week, there was a season 2 of what was that first season's format on Barbecue Pitmasters before there was some kind of a spat between networks and they changed the format. I still think it can work. It's proving out on television every other way except in the barbecue scene. You tell me barbecue people aren't interesting, that people won't build relationships with them? Give me a break. They're more relatable than anybody else. Is anybody relating to the Kardashians? Look, you still watch them. I mean, I know I have a private jet, they have a private jet, but that's where the similarities end. Susie and Todd Bullock are in the green room. We'll get to them here in just 1 second. I'll talk to you quickly about Big Papa Smokers, the one-stop online shop for all things barbecue, a curated selection of only the best outdoor cooking and grilling supplies, getting you on the path to better barbecue results in no time. Big Papa's known for the championship rubs and seasonings, popular flavors like Sweet Money, Cattle Prod, Cash Cow, all proven winners on the competition circuit and in backyards. 13 perfectly balanced flavors that transform ordinary meals into extraordinary. Also the owner of Granny's Barbecue Sauce. If you're looking for a new go-to sauce that will please everybody, or you're tired of what's existing out there, give Granny's a try. Great all by itself out of the bottle, or if you want to use it as base sauce and trick it out from there, certainly your prerogative. Aside from the premium selection of rubs and sauces, Big Papa Smokers also offers the very best cookers available on the market today. If you're looking for a versatile smoker that's easy to use, check out that Mac 2-star General Pellet Cooker. Big Papa Smokers, the exclusive Mac dealer, even offering special packages. Not a fan of pellet smokers? All right. Don't know what grill you might want? Okay. Call them, 877-828-0727. That's 877-828-0727. And ask away. They'll make sure you're outfitted with exactly what you need. Or shop the website, bigpopsmokers.com. That's BIGPOPPA smokers.com. We are back with Susie and Todd from Hey Grill Hey. Right after this, stick around. Be right back.
You're listening to the number 2 most downloaded barbecue and grilling podcast anywhere. The Barbecue Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
And welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by Smithfield. Head on over to smithfield.com right now for recipes, tips, and tricks from well-known live fire cooks like Darren Worth, Jess Pryles, and Charles Cridlin. with mouthwatering flavor and no artificial ingredients. Smithfield Fresh Pork is quite simply some of the finest pork money can buy and the trusted choice of top cooks for use in competitions and at home. That's Smithfield, and the website smithfield.com. All right, leading off the second hour and joining me for their quarterly visit here in 2022, the creator of Hey Grill Hey, one of the most recognizable and popular names in the live fire space. Many things continuing to transpire here in the live fire space since our last visit, so we waste no more time racing to the hotline and welcoming back Susie and Todd Bullock from Hey Grill Hey. Hey Grill Hey, you two. I have no sound. No sound. I can't hear you. You on mute? Hello? Uh-huh. 1 second. We're waiting patiently. Cue the waiting music. Let's try this. If you made a settings switch, go ahead and X out fully, come back in, and I bet it all works. No problem. Yeah. Make sure you close out the whole browser if you change settings and then come back in. That'll work. Assuming you made change. All right. Away they go. Much like Rod Gray wouldn't listen to me. How dare you? It's
any sound?
Yes, sound, but it sounds like it might be the computer microphone. Is that right?
Yeah. So my audio interface crapped out right before this. I don't know what's wrong with it.
You're kidding.
Sorry about us.
So I couldn't use the condenser mic because then it would capture the sound of you.
Oh no.
My headphones weren't working either. Something's wrong and I don't know how to fix it.
Normally we're very prepared, but we had technical equipment fail on us.
Audio's like my thing, so I'm kind of embarrassed.
The audio visual scene at Hey Grill Hey needs a little haying at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on Rod Gray being installed as the new CEO for Kansas City BBQ Society? Either, both?
I don't know.
Pellet Envy?
Do you care about that, or we can just move on?
I don't know him personally, so I don't have an opinion. But I'm sure he'll do great. I'm glad he's doing it and not me.
Both of your opinions. Susie, you go first. Is $34 a pound for brisket too much at this point?
Yes.
Todd?
Wait.
All right.
Cooked or uncooked?
No, cooked. Like if you're going to a barbecue restaurant. Yeah, $34 a pound for uncooked brisket is way too much.
That's astronomical.
Yes, that is ridiculous.
It jumped from 20 to 30 real quick. Someone's doing $34.99.
There are many restaurants. Now, I looked a lot in Texas because that's where I associate brisket, and there were plenty at 34. Franklin, Black's, La Barbecue. Some of them, I'm not saying they were hiding it, but they were also selling by the half pound at $17 a pound. But Todd, you're a CPA, so you can do the quick math. That's $34 a pound. And not only that, but here in Cleveland, tomorrow I'm going to Michael Simon's Mabel's Barbecue Restaurant, who is also selling it the half pound at $17. So it's not just Texas. It's not just somewhere relegated to a region of the country. It appears to be even in places as dismal as Cleveland. That seems like a lot.
I think that's really expensive, but I also know what costs are associated from a restaurant end when it comes to food costs. And brisket has a lot of costs associated that aren't just product related. You're looking at volume loss during the cooking process. So your yield is very different than your raw cost. You're also looking at fuel costs. You're looking at property costs for restaurants, but also the labor that goes into actually producing that product is very different than most other food types. I mean, just the hours that it takes to prep, cook, rest, and serve is astronomical. I also know that a lot of these restaurants are trying to pay their employees in a way that makes sense given the environment that we're currently living in. And inflation has hit people across the board, but food costs and restaurants have been specifically struck. And those who were lucky enough to survive the pandemic are now figuring out how to make margins. So I think eating at a restaurant is a privilege in general. I think it's something that with low food costs, we have taken advantage of for a majority of our lives. We've set an expectation in our brains that it should be cheap, fast, and easy. And I don't think that's the case with barbecue anymore. I think, restaurant owners are combating a lot. And if we want to eat out, we have to recognize that for the privilege that it is. That means that we're probably going to pay for it.
Todd, your thoughts?
I mean, the Disneyland effect popped in my brain, right? So they keep upping the prices and upping the prices and upping the prices because they can, because the demand's there. So if you don't want to pay $34.99, I guess don't go eat there. You spend your dollars somewhere else. But if I want to go try the best barbecue in Texas, then I'm probably going to shell out $34.99 a pound. If that's what they're charging, I guess that's what I'm going to pay.
One of the things I wanted to talk about this evening or give you platform to do, I don't know how much you've done it on your own social medias and websites, I would assume pretty decent amount. But for my fans, we know your products. A lot of people are big fans of your products, but there might be 2 new things that are going to be hitting the Hey Grill Hey line. So tell us a little bit about those.
Yeah, we just gave a sneak peek. So we have our Grill Squad. It's our online barbecue community and virtual kind of barbecue and grilling school. They get a lot of sneak peeks when it comes to products and all of that. So we just broke this to these guys. So now we're allowed to share it with the community at large. But we're launching our rib rub and a mustard style zesty gold sauce is what we're calling it. That's coming out in the next couple of weeks. And these are fun ones for us because we're out here in Utah. And when it comes to something like a dry rib rub, you automatically think Memphis, or a mustard sauce, you think South Carolina. But being out here, we really have the opportunity to put our own spin on a lot of things. So I feel like these are my homage to these barbecue regions that have really influenced my cooking overall, but I get to put, kind of my own spin on things and twist them up. So those will be coming out hopefully by the end of the month. We're shooting to have them ready for ship for Labor Day. So
you don't already have a rib rub?
I have a sweet rub, and that one's kind of an all-purpose barbecue rub, and we use it on ribs. But the rib rub is a little bit different. It pulls more savory. It has things like celery seed in it that I think, like I said, that's kind of one of those classic barbecue rub ingredients. But it also has a couple other things in there that are pretty unique to this specific seasoning, and I think gives it a little something extra. So,
Todd, are you a mustard sauce fan?
Typically I haven't been, but the more that I use it, this new one, I really, really like it.
Also, I put it on everything so he doesn't have a choice.
You're getting to love it by association.
Yeah.
He's going to love it. When we're testing new products or when I'm testing new recipes for the website, it gets to the point where it's like, okay, I could probably never eat ribs again, or I could probably never eat this thing again, because it's a really rigorous process to get the flavor profiles, the consistency, all the stuff that I want. It's so much work and a lot of eating. And I mean, we call him Taste Test Todd. The poor man has his own hashtag. So it has to be Todd approved before it hits anywhere. And so he has to eat a lot of it.
I had a favorite mustard-based sauce, and this is going back a number of years, before even the podcast, when I just had the barbecue forum back in the day. It was South Carolina. It was called Reverend Marvin's. It's not manufacturing anymore. There was a normal and a spicy version. Very thin, very flavorful, had a nice spice to it. I actually put it in coleslaw and made a mustard-based sauce coleslaw. When you're developing specifically this sauce, there's a billion Kansas City sauces and a billion Piedmont sauces, but this is traditionally a very hyper-regional sauce dedicated to even just a portion of South Carolina. It doesn't encompass all of South Carolina. So how do you know you're doing it right?
I think this is one of those things where we get to say that we're inspired by, but I'm from Utah, so if I do it wrong, sorry. I think
That's a big risk.
Well, yeah, I think it's a big risk, but I also think, barbecue is and has been historically hyper regional, but I think with, the insurgence of barbecue as a backyard event for more and more and more Americans, and the internet being as open and as accessible as it is, these regional flavors are having a national stage right now, and the opportunity to be tasted and tweaked and distributed in a way that maybe it was hyper regional in terms of restaurants serving it, but now anybody can make or have a Carolina style sauce that's mustard based in their own kitchen and in their backyard. So I think we're going to see people using these traditional recipes in different ways. I think we're going to see people taking this, classic form of something that they were inspired by and tweaking it to suit their family and their taste. I mean, my mustard sauce, I can already tell you, pulls just a hint sweeter than I think what you would get in a traditional South Carolina style sauce. It has a little bit more honey in it. And that's a preference that we love and we develop. And I think it creates a really nice balance. But like you said, I mean, even then, the stuff that is hyper regional and super specific, it's never identical. Everybody that recreates it does it their own way. And otherwise it would just be carbon copies. And then there would be no regional anything anywhere. It would all just be the same everywhere. So I think we approach stuff like this with respect for where it came from and an appreciation for how it started. And then, also realize that things are meant to grow and things are meant to be touched and tweaked and played with. So
let's follow up on that a little bit. You have a pretty healthy products offering portfolio at the time. Now you're adding 2 things, or you've just added 2 new things to that. Do you and Todd talk regularly about an ideal number of products to have available in the market at any given time?
I don't think we've talked about a specific thing. I just know or a specific number. I just know we're being really careful to not do too many things, to the point where we want to build a baseline, and then maybe we do limited edition things or seasonal things or whatever, just to keep it interesting. But yeah, we're now at 6 rubs and 6 sauces, and I don't think we should go any higher than that, to be honest.
Yeah, we really don't have any plans to. And honestly, getting to 6 and 6 came from our operations manager at the warehouse, who said, 6 bottles fit in a box a lot better than 5. And so we took it to our community online and we said, what do you guys want to see? If we didn't even intend to roll one more out. We were like 5 and 5. That's great. And he was like, literally, we're paying the same in shipping, whether you have 5 or 6. So I think it's probably a good idea to have 6, and then you're not wasting space in a box. So our audience came back and leaned really heavily towards, they want these regional style sauces. Our top 2 were the Carolina mustard sauce and the Alabama white sauce that people wanted to see in bottled format. And I think that plays into what you were saying. It has been this hyper regional. It has been this small subset of the barbecue population that had access to these types of flavors and these types of sauces or seasonings. And now to be able to have access to more stuff like that, I think is really cool.
If you were going to be adding more products at this point, we're talking hypothetically, would you then perhaps take a look at what the least selling by volume, or if you were going to be adding 2, if you were going to add 2, would you look at the bottom 2 and then consider retiring those?
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah.
The hard part about that is that every single one of our rubs and sauces has like a loyal following. And so we'll ask people, what's your favorite? And it's across the board. Like, yes, some sell much more than others on the website in terms of like people buying them and their popularity and whatever. But there are people that just love this one rub or love this one rub or sauce. And so I would feel so bad. I'd have to like send them their own little stockpile before we discontinued it or something. I don't know.
Susie and Todd Bullock joining us here on the show. HeyGrillHey.com, the website, of course. Todd, what's the Foodie It podcast?
Oh, no. So Susie released we released the Hey Grill Hey app, and I was out to lunch with some friends, and I have this friend who is a self-proclaimed idiot when it comes to food, who he's like, dude, I downloaded your app and I've been using it to build shopping lists and menu plans and go shopping and cook for my family, and it's changed our lives. And
Nice.
I want to start a podcast about us being idiots talking and learning about food. So that's where it came from. It's just me and two of my best friends just talking about food.
Not to get into the weeds of podcasting here, but I'm kind of a pro. Do you put together is it a weekly release? I mean, let's start from the high levels here. What kind of a release schedule do you have for this thing?
Yeah, so we do like a Sunday night release, and we have it planned out. It's edited, and it's planned out and edited, a week in advance probably, and we've got 2 or 3 in the back pocket usually, so we can, if we take a week off of recording, then we're not behind, kind of a thing.
So is the major importance then to make sure that you keep that buffer amount in the can just in case? Because I can't tell you how many times I've heard this guy or gal has this great idea, they're burning about it, and they're releasing once a week or whatever the initial release schedule is, but then like after a quarter they start to fade a little bit, and then another quarter later it's like instead of once a week it's once a month, and then all of a sudden boom, they're gone, and their most recent episode was 5 years ago. So how are you strategically planning to guard against what we call pod fade?
That's a great question. Well, luckily we grew up really good friends. We had kind of a time when we were building careers and families where we didn't spend a lot of time together, and we realized we missed that. So now it's very motivating to get together at least weekly to record, and we all live in the same town now, and we didn't before. So that's one thing. The other thing is we have a list of 100+ ideas for episodes, and then we're literally weeks and months scheduled out. We know exactly what we're going to be talking about, for weeks and weeks, and then we just keep that plan going. And as long as the plan's there, I think we'll keep going. So,
is there a temptation to go the easy number of times to the well and pull Susie into a recording? I mean, she's a draw, right?
Listen, they waited 25 episods before they invited me on as a guest.
No shit. Wow, good for you. That's good.
Also,
that's impressive. I would have had you on number 1. Forget about it.
I offered. I think they had a little bit of, they wanted to do it on their own, and they wanted to build something that was their own. And I think they did have a little bit of that fear of like this might fizzle out. And so they didn't even really start promoting until they had a whole handful of episodes in the bag, because I feel like they really wanted to be an established place where people could have a backlog of things to talk about. And personally, like, I say this as Todd's wife, but also as a listener, the way that they structure their podcast is really relatable. I think a lot of people grew up in kind of the convenience food era of, the 80s and 90s, with moms going back to work and latchkey kids and having food that was available. And so when they say that they were foodiettes, they're not lying. Like, they just ate fast food or convenience food and never learned how to cook until they were in their 30s. And as they were talking to people, they realized that a lot of people our age were having similar experiences. And I think the pandemic specifically forced a lot of people into learning how to cook that previously didn't have that information. So it's really fun to listen and follow along with their journeys, because they start each episode with the appetizer and they talk about a topic that they know nothing about. And so they just bounce questions that you wouldn't think would be a question if you're in the food world. But to people who are new or learning, like, a lot of things that they're asking are common sense, and maybe you wouldn't think to Google them, or you wouldn't, but it's really relatable. And then they take a week to research all of their questions and get back together the next week and then go through and answer their questions and have conversations and kind of learn together about things that they didn't know about before. And I think they get to take the listener on that journey with them. So it's funny, it's insightful. I think you learn a lot about food, more about things than you even realized you didn't know. So even if you're not a foodie to begin with, you know, there's something that you can glean from it. And I think he's cute and they're fun.
You know, what I think is most admirable about that whole lead portion of the podcast, Todd, is you guys are putting yourself out there to say, hey, maybe I'm not as knowledgeable as the next guy or gal. And here I'm offering my shortcomings to you. And there has to be a large, as Susie was saying, there's got to be a large portion of that audience is like, well, I would never ask anybody that question out loud, or there's no way I would do. I'm so happy there's this guy Todd and his other food idiot friends who are openly discussing everything I've ever feared about talking about other people with. And not only that, they're relatable in that aspect, but now you're giving solutions or you're providing information on top of that. And that's what having a successful podcast is all about, right? It's supplying a great interview or some kind of great educational piece, but then also making it entertaining on top of that. So what's your biggest hope or your biggest guest get, or like what's the stretch goal for the podcast?
Other than Greg Rempe? I don't know.
Yeah, then it's over. Yeah. Okay. Pod fade right there.
I don't know. You're talking about like an Alton Brown or something like that, you know, a really smart person with food. Like, I don't know if he's the one, but just someone like that, you know. One of my one buddy's a huge fan of Sam the Cooking Guy, and that's one of his dream lands. So
one of us might know him pretty well.
I know.
So maybe if you need help, maybe I can help out. I suppose this is something you can subscribe to on any podcast platform.
Yeah, any podcast platform is just the Foodie It Podcast, and then on social media at Foodie It Podcast. On all of them, we're posting frequently, and we're having a lot of fun, and we're learning a lot. And if you tune in and listen, you'll see that we have a long way to go. But I think that's the beauty of it is we're like, no, we're idiot. Not only are we food idiots, we're also podcast idiots. So we're learning as we go.
That's the only way to do it. Learning as you go, and then leaning on the people that have expertise when you need questions answered. That's what it's all about. Plus, 2 new products that we've also discovered here this evening, a rib rub and a mustard-based barbecue sauce rub that will be heading out. HeyGrillHey.com, the website. There's Susie right there on the left and Todd right there on the right. Guys, always appreciate you coming on for the quarterly visits, and we do it again before the year's up, so looking forward to that.
Next time we'll have a real microphone.
All right, fingers crossed, and I'll hold you to it. Susie and Todd Bullock, HeyGrillHey.com. If you would like to go over and grab the rib rub. Again, I was surprised they hadn't had a rib rub already out, but I have the sweet rub, and it's not. What did I say about Bub and Mothers? I'm a sweet rub guy, and it's really good. So I'll be excited to try out the rib rub because I also love ribs. All right, quick read here. We'll get some crowd reaction, and then we might call it a night here a little bit earlier than normal. What do we love about ceramic cookers? We love that they are fuel efficient. We love you can achieve low and slow temperatures for traditional barbecue meats. We love that you can get rip-roaring high heat for grilling of steaks and other thin cuts. But what's missing in the everyday lineup of ceramic cookers? The ability to do true two-zone cooking. Two-zone cooking, very important to both professional and backyard cooks alike. It's the best way to manage a fire and cook with confidence. However, getting a two-zone fire and a round ceramic cooker is not very realistic. Why? Because it's round. Enter Primo Grills and their game-changing oval design. The shape gives you the ability to execute a two-zone setup that you desire. It also gives you the other ceramic grill benefits as well. Really, when you break it down, there are more than 60 different ways to configure a Primo cooker. So you're only limited by your culinary imagination. The website primogrill.com. And if you missed it, if you don't subscribe to the show, you don't follow me socially, if you don't subscribe to me on the podcast, then you missed a bonus content with the president of Primo Grill, Nick Bauer. Primo Grill had their Primo Bash, first annual, over this past weekend in Poplar Bluff, Missouri. It was at their manufacturing facility. They had plant tours. Dealers were there. Distributors were there. Primo customers were there. To-be Primo customers were also there, taking plant tours, seeing how everything was made. And as Nick said, totally American made. Not like some of the other stuff that claims where they're bringing it in, but then they're assembling. Gets a little gray area there when you're throwing the good old US of A around, don't you think? Yes. Well, not here. It's all right here in the States, and they can prove it because the manufacturing facilities are all right there. The ceramics portion of that business right across the street. PrimoGrill.com. That's PrimoGrill.com. Find a dealer near you, and then take it from there. We are back to wrap the show right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Let's get back to a guy who has more experience giving you his opinion than he actually has cooking. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
I got to figure out what the hell that is. That's annoying. That's happened 3 weeks in a row. I'm going to have to take the Tower of Power 3 into the shop. Hey, back in the day, watches were made to be worn in the pocket after World War II. Wristwatches came into vogue, and pocket watch quickly became an afterthought, finding their way into sock drawers and scrap heaps. Quite simply, a tragedy. Enter Vortic Watch Company, helping bridge the gap between America's storied watch manufacturing past and bringing it to the present day, where wristwatches are finding incredible popularity once again. Here's the coolest part. Each watch that Vortic makes is unique and one of a kind. In other words, nobody will have a watch just like yours. Founded on the motto that America wasn't assembled, it was built. Check out VorticWatches.com for more information. By the way, I'm not bragging, but I'm finally getting my Vortic watch. Not the one I really, really wanted, but there was a prop piece that they had sent me that I fell in love with and said, hey, instead of just this waiting because my patience has worn thin, what about that one so-and-so watch? Well, they took the guts out of it, rebuilt it, and it is on the way to me. You'll see it next week. The Burlington Special Railroad Watch Edition, 51 millimeters. If you're not a watch person, that means nothing to you. This one is 44 millimeters, so 7 millimeters bigger than that. Probably, I don't typically wear watches that big. I'm a 42 to 44 guy. This one specifically fits my wrist really nice. 51, I do already have a 51. That's like the Sam the Cooking Guy one. But this one will be a 51, and I love it. It's so nice. Every minute is individually marked all the way around the dial. Oh, I can't wait. Very excited. Anyway, I think we've done it all. We've covered a bunch of stuff. Everybody's been very good. So much like as school heads into the summer, we're going to let everybody go early. I got all the business taken care of. Hey, we just happen to have a couple openings for sponsorship. So if you're interested, let me know. Greg at thebbqcentralshow.com. It's very expensive. Most of you can't afford it. But if you have budgets, you want to get in front of the target customer base that you are serving, get in touch with me, Greg at thebbqcentralshow.com, and we can go ahead and talk about it further from there. So let me line it up here real quick so I can do this in a very proper and professional fashion. We make tracks to get on out all the way back in the first hour. Bit of an abridged Rod Gray segment. I would have loved to have had that 5 or 6 extra more minutes. I don't know if I would have gotten through everything, but we got through most of the important stuff. So we wish Rod good luck. I'm in talks with KCBS board president, and we're lining him up here over the next couple weeks so we can get what it looked like from the board side in hiring a CEO and see where Rod's expectation and the board's expectation is going to come together and hopefully gel very well so they can operate as a cohesive unit. And then, after Rod, we talked with Mike Lang, Another Pint Please. Mike is going to be doing live demos at the Hartville Hardware Grillfest 2022, September 17th. That's a Saturday, and we'll be there all day. I'll be emceeing. BBQ will be there as well. And then we closed it out with Susie and Todd Bullock. Sans their normal microphone on a much broader microphone, which is why it was a little bit more earth and room incorporated with that. But acceptable. Because microphone. 2 new products are out. Visit HeyGrillHey.com to go ahead and check those out and buy them up if you're interested. And subscribe to Todd's effort, the Foodie It podcast. Like Food Idiot, but run together. Foodie It on all the podcast platforms. It's the 4th Tuesday of the month next week, 2022, rapidly coming to a close, of course. We will have the bristly barbecue journalist, Derek Riches. We will have the embedded correspondent and Chris Young from Combustion Inc., if you could believe it. So, how do I always leave you? September 11th, 2001. I will never forget. Until next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, this is your program host and proud American, Greg Rempe. Good night now.
Hello, this is Joe with Smoking Joe's Pit Barbecue, and you are listening to The Barbecue Central Show.